Hey everyone! This is a tutorial for Cricut EasyPress. Just wanted to show you how I designed the bohemian embroidery design that I put on my t-shirt. So here I'm just showing you the pieces that I created it from. And I'm going to show you how to do that. So what you'll do is go over to the left-hand side and click Images. And really, you can pick any of the images. If you have a Cricut device, you probably already know about Design Space, and you probably already have an Access subscription. Access is that little green A that you see in the corner of the images, and that allows you to use any of those for free. There are certain designs in Design Space that you have to pay for, but if you have Access, almost all of them are free. So here are the designs that I like the best. I just went to the top and typed in Folk Art Tulip because that is what I wanted to use on here. And I clicked the search button. I'm just scrolling through to look at the different designs and see if there's something that I want to pick out to use. As you saw already, I've already had those pieces picked out, but I'm just showing you how to do that here. So you can just scroll through and find something that you like. I wanted this to look very bohemian, kind of folk arty, so I picked these designs specifically. So I'm just scrolling through to show you a few of the different designs. I really like that little guitar. I'll click on the guitar in a second and show you what happens. So if you click on it, it shows up in the bottom right hand corner, and that just shows that once you click insert image, it'll go into your design space. And you can do as many as you want. I normally don't know exactly what I want to do, so I'll pick a bunch of different things so I don't have to go searching again. I'll just pick some things that I like and then kind of mess around with them and figure out what I like best and what I want to use. So I just pick a bunch of things, and you'll see they all show up in the bottom, and then I click Insert Images. And these are the different layers. It's called a layer when you have each of these different pieces are called layers, and they show up over on the right-hand side. And you can change the color of them if you want to. You don't need to, because really the color, you're not printing these. These are just, this is just to figure out how your design is going to go. So you don't have to change the colors if you want to, but you can. I'm going to go ahead and leave this gray because it shows up nice and easy to see on your screen. So I'm going to go ahead and leave this gray. But I actually, when I cut it out of white. And the design that I'm sharing in my blog post, I share in a few different colors, gold and blue and red, because I thought it might be fun to layer them and make it look more like an embroidery design. But on my blue t-shirt, I thought it looked really good just to have the plain white. So I'm just going to leave these gray. But you can change those if you want to by clicking that little dot next to them over in the layers section over on the right-hand side. So I'm just moving this around to see where I want to place it. And you can move things around and flip them around, flip them over. So with this design, when I first put the vine into Design Space, it actually comes out horizontal. I'll show you that in a moment. But you can move it around. So there's the rotate tool at the top if you want to do it by degrees. I'll put it back to 0 here, and you'll see this is how it actually shows up when you first put it into Design Space. But then you can make it bigger or smaller, and you can rotate it, and you can just make the design look how you want it to. Since this t-shirt is a V-neck, I wanted to make something that would go around the V. So I angled the vines to go up the edges of the V. And so I'm going to put it back to about the same way that it was before, because I like this angle the best. And because this is going to be a design where it goes up both sides of the V and the bottom part is just a medallion at the bottom of the V, I want to make 2 of these vines, and I want to flip one of them so it's exactly the same angle as this angle. So I'm going to duplicate it, and then I'm going to click the flip tool up at the top and click the flip horizontally, and that makes the other side the exact same angle as the first side. And then I move it, and I look at the grid in the background. That grid isn't just there for show purposes, it's actual grid by inches. So however big I make this is how big it's going to come out on my t-shirt. So I look at the grid and I move around those pieces so that they're exactly the same distance away from the center medallion. This design is the one that I want to go on the bottom of my sleeves. And so I want that little tulip to be on the top of the vine. I thought it looked pretty that way. So what I'm doing is moving it around, trying to get it centered on there, which is kind of hard to do with your mouse. So an easier way to do that is drag across the 2 of them so it selects both pieces. I'll show you that again. Drag across the 2 pieces so it selects both. And then up at the top, you'll see an align tool, and you want to click align to center horizontally. And what this does is make sure that they're both lined up exactly perfectly centered. So now that it's centered, I want to attach it. So attach it or weld it so that it stays together and it doesn't get moved around. So down on the left, I'll drag again and select them both. And down on the right hand side, I'll click weld. So now when I move it around, it's all stuck together. And I don't have to worry about it coming apart and being in different places like this one will. See how that goes? It'll move around still. So with this one, I want them all to stay together, but I don't necessarily want to weld it because in a minute I'll show you how we're going to make sure that it looks good on a V-neck t-shirt. So I want to make sure to be able to rotate those 2 pieces. So at this point, I can either weld it or attach it. I think I weld it here, but you could just attach it, and that way you could detach it and make it 3 different pieces again if you wanted to. But anyway, I drag across the 3 pieces to get them all to be together, and then I can weld or attach it. Either way, it'll make it so that they stay together and so that they're together on the mat also. If all you do is group them, because you can group it as well, and what that does is just makes it so that you can move them around without them coming apart. But that will not keep them in the same aspect to each other when you put them onto the mat. So here I've welded it. Now I'm going to go over to the templates over on the side. Templates are nothing but like a background picture just to show you what your design is going to look like on a project. These won't show up. They won't cut out of your vinyl or any of your media. They're just to show you what your design will look like on different items. So there's aprons and t-shirts and all kinds of different things. And I choose the V-neck t-shirt so that I can see what my design is going to look like on the t-shirt. Now, this makes it really small and kind of hard to see for you guys. So down in the left-hand corner, I can make that bigger. I'm going to make it 50% instead of 25% so that you can see what the t-shirt looks like. So now I can move my little design and see how it looks on the t-shirt itself. I'll move it down so that it's about where I want it on my actual t-shirt. And I think that looks pretty cute. And then the sleeve piece, I'll rotate to put it on the edge of the sleeve just to see if I like the way that looks. And I do. And now I'm going to duplicate that as well because I'm going to need 2 of those sleeve pieces. Now, as I said, that t-shirt in the background, it's just like an image, just a picture. It's not going to cut out of anything. So even though my t-shirt's a long sleeve t-shirt, it doesn't really matter. I'm just looking at it to see if I like those designs on the edges of the sleeves. And I think it's pretty cute. So I'm going to go ahead and keep that. But what I want to do with those 2 sleeve pieces is rotate them back to being horizontal again. Because when you look at this, the sizes that it shows you are actually a rectangle of what it'll be if it's printed or cut diagonally, which is not the measurement that I want. I want to measure the edge of my t-shirt sleeve and make sure that this will match up with the same size as my t-shirt. So I'm going to rotate this back to 0, which means it's going to go back to the way it was, which is horizontal, so that I can measure the edges of the pieces and make sure that they're the size that I want them. This says 4.775, and I want it to actually be 4 3/4. It's, pretty close to that. Probably wouldn't make much of a difference, but I'm going to go ahead and change that to 4 3/4. So I'm going to click on each one and go up to the top to the measurement tool and just type 4 3/4. So I'm showing you where the measurement tool there is at the top. I'm going to type 4 3/4 here and enter, and that'll change the size a little bit, and 4 3/4 on the other one, and that'll change that to 4 3/4. So they'll both cut at the same size. Now, when I'm looking at the larger medallion, I want to make sure that it'll fit around the V of my t-shirt, and I know that it's 8 inches. So I make sure that there's at least 8 inches between those two tulips that are at the top. And if you see this, it came out on a big mat, and I don't want that. So what I did was I clicked Make It, and it shows the pieces on the mat. And I don't want this to come out on a big mat because I actually just want it to be on a 12 by 12 mat. So I'm going to change the size of this design down to 11.5 wide. That's as wide as you can get it onto a 12-inch mat. And it actually comes out perfect on the t-shirt when I do it at 11.5. There we go. We're on a 12-inch mat now. So what attaching it or welding it did was, once I put it on the mat, it comes out all in one piece. So when I go to place it on my t-shirt, I don't have to worry about getting those 3 pieces lined up perfectly again, because they're already going to be lined up perfectly on the transfer tape for me if I cut them this way, rather than leaving them unattached. So that was the embroidery design. Now I'm going to show you how I did some of my tattoo designs, which I think are really fun. And really all this is going to show you is different ways to put in your text and do things like that. But I have this also linked in my blog post, this design. So if you want to use these designs yourself, you can do that. So I'm just showing the different designs that I made. I was kind of trying to think of biker tattoos and like traditional tattoos. There's ride or die, or just, different things. So that's the sugar skull that I chose to use on my tattoo design. And I chose that and I added it to my project, which is what I'm showing here. And then, I was just showing that you could find all kinds of different things, and lots of these would make great like tattoo designs that you could put on the sleeve of a t-shirt if you wanted to. Or, there's lots of things like Halloween designs and Christmas designs and all kinds of things that you could do. So I added the skull, and then I want to also add a scroll design, which is what I think I do next here. Sorry, I'm doing a voiceover, and I actually filmed this a few days ago. Oh, no, I'm doing text first. So I'm going to do Born to Sew. So what I like to do is do each word separately rather than typing them all together in one text block. That way, if I want to do different fonts, you can change the font for each of the different words, which I do sometimes. In this case, I'm going to use the same font for each one. So this is not the font I want. It's a little too modern. I want something a little gothic. And so I go through the fonts in Design Space, and I find one that I think looks like it would match the style of my tattoo. So I picked some scrolly kind of font. And I just change each one of those to the same font here. It takes a second just scrolling through looking for the right one. And then what I like to do is move them over closer to the graphic piece and kind of make them fit around it. I like to make the different words kind of fit together, like the two, what fits behind the S a little bit, maybe up into the other word. Just makes them look like they were more hand done that way. And now I'm going to pick a scroll design because I think it looks really good with like a cool Gothic scroll. So I kind of look through the different ones and find one that I like. This one kind of has the style that I like. I don't like the color, but that's easily changed, of course, and you're gonna cut it out of your vinyl, which is going to be whatever color you choose anyway. So you don't really have to worry about what color it is. You're just looking at the style of what you like. So I go ahead and pick that scroll and add it. And this, if you look over in the layers, you'll see it's 4 different layers of colors. And, you know, I don't need all those layers and I don't need all the foofiness of it. I want it to be a little more basic. So what I'm going to do is ungroup them and take the different layers apart. And I'm going to get rid of those pink layers. And sorry, I had to interrupt right there. I had a phone call and I had to stop recording. That's kind of embarrassing. Sorry about that. Okay, anyway, so what I'm doing is getting rid of the other colors. So I just have that black scroll, which I like better. And now I'm just looking around and thinking, what do I want to do with that scroll? So I'm just going to move it around and maybe make it a little bit smaller. Do I like it there? Or maybe I don't like the way the scroll is going, so I'm going to flip it horizontally. I like that better because I think that really shows like an underline of where it says so. So I think I really like that. So I'm going to leave that. And I think maybe I need one on the top too. So I'm going to duplicate that and maybe add one to the top and see how that looks. So this is just how I do designing. I'm not a graphic designer. I just mess around with things just to see how I like them or whatever. And so I'm going to move all this entire design down a little bit so I can put something around the top. So here it is. I think this looks kind of funny because the two scrolls are going like opposite directions. So it's almost too binary. So I'm going to flip that one on top around again probably and make it go a different direction. Either flip it horizontally or vertically and see what happens. I think horizontally probably like that. Yeah, I like that better because now it doesn't look like I have just stuck 2 of the same thing on there. And it kind of looks like a hat, which I think is kind of cool on the skull. So I'm going to leave that like that. And I'm going to group those together so that they don't move away from each other. And then I can move it around and do whatever I want with it. So when I designed this, I was also going to show you that because I didn't attach them, they come out and all over the place on the mat. The mat just puts them as close together as possible so that it uses as little vinyl as possible. But when I'm doing heat transfer, I like them to all stay where they're at because it's really hard to try to get them positioned perfectly again. So once I have them exactly like I like them on my design space, if I select everything and click attach, then they will stay together the way they are on my design space, on my mat, and they will cut out of my vinyl exactly the way they are on design space, which is the way I like it. Because that way, once I weed this and take off all of the negative vinyl, I'll have just the design that I want, and it'll all be ready to go together onto whatever project I'm going to put it on. So the other thing I'm showing you here is that if you have writing or anything that it makes a difference what the right or left is, you want to click the mirror button, because if you don't do that, you're going to end up with your writing being backwards on your t-shirt, because this gets cut out from the opposite, gets cut out from the back of the vinyl rather than the front of the vinyl. So it'll come out opposite on your t-shirt. So it would say Norb Ot Woos instead of Born to Sew. Anyway, and then you want to save your project, of course. That way you don't lose it later on. And so you just click the save button at the top, give it a name. And I don't save everything public. I just don't like to do that. Oh, I'm showing you on my iPad where you find the mirror button on the iPad if you're using your iPad to cut your vinyl. And here is my machine cutting out those designs I just showed you, the tattoo designs. So that sugar skull is really hard to weed because it's got teeny tiny little scrolly pieces in it. But it comes out really cute. I have a picture of it on the design. You'll see it if you click on it from my blog post. Here I am weeding the actual embroidery design that I'm going to use on my t-shirt. And I just wanted to show you that this is how the weeding process goes. You just pull all of the negative part off. And here I'm using one of the weeding tools to get a little piece that was still stuck in there. But that's what you do. You just use the weeding tools if you have to get little pieces out. I did not take all of the little pieces out of this design because I liked it a little more plain, the way that it comes out when I just take off the background. But each of those hearts has like a little flower that's cut out and things, but I did not take those out because I liked it better with the heart being one piece. And the tulips also have like a little teardrop shape that are cut out of them, but I did not do that as well because I liked it better, a little plainer for my t-shirt. So I don't really like super intricate designs on the things that I wear. So every once in a while I'll wear a print, but normally I'm more of a solids kind of person. So I wanted to keep it a little more sedate for me, but if you like ornate, then you go for it because I think that's great too. And I also, as I said, did this design in a bunch of different colors because I think you could probably cut this out of like 4 different colors, take little pieces off of the design, and you could have flowers in different colors and maybe vines in gold and the flowers in blue and red or whatever you want to do. Anyway, I hope you enjoy this. Have a good time. Bye.